and welcome to College of Lore. I'm Kate.
And I'm Jill.
And thanks for joining us today for a little chat about role-playing. So today our video is going to be about creating a custom character background in D&D 5th edition. So this is something that Jill and I were interested in, and we tried it out recently for ourselves, so we thought we'd make a little video tutorial with a couple different ways that you could approach making your own custom background. So as you might know, the Player's Handbook already has quite a few character backgrounds for you to choose from. However, depending on what you're imagining for your character, you might find that those backgrounds don't fit what you had in mind. So there's some situations where you might want to come up with your own character background. The rules totally allow for you to do this. Just need a little bit of creativity and you're good to go. So we're going to guide you through that process.
Yeah, because I think often when I've created backgrounds, I've needed to borrow a bit from other backgrounds to make something a bit more tailored to the character I wanted to create anyway. We're just going to, I guess, push it to a new level where it's all original for that character.
Yes, exactly. So there's two sort of basic methods that we're going to describe. One of them is called the easy way, and one of them is the hard way. So for the easy way, this is something that's basically already covered in your Player's Handbook in the chapter about backgrounds. Yeah. So what you're doing with the easy way is you're just tailoring an existing background to more closely represent what you wanted. So you would use this easy method if there's a background that is close to what you're looking for, but not quite. So what you do, as it describes in the book, is you find a background that you're going to work from and modify. You can replace the feature from that background with a feature from another background in the book. So you're just taking something from this background over here, plopping it into the background that you want to tailor.
And I've done that fairly recently. I was making a character and I wanted to use the sailor background, but since we weren't going to be sailing in this adventure, my DM allowed me to take the soldier feature and use that instead.
Instead of the one that was in sailor.
Yeah.
Perfect. So then after you do that replacement, you choose two skills that you'll have proficiency with as a result of taking the background. And then you can also choose two tool proficiencies or languages from the book, from other backgrounds, or just from the list of tool proficiencies and languages that are available. Then you can also use an equipment package, either from the background that you've chosen or from a different background. You can also just spend money. There's like a certain amount of money that you can spend on equipment, so you could spend that much money, and that little package of equipment would be your custom equipment for the background. And then you choose your personality traits, two of them, an ideal, a bond, and a flaw. And again, you can grab those from the backgrounds that exist in the book, as long as they make sense for you. So that's a very easy way to do it, and you're still just using everything that's already been created in the Player's Handbook. So now it's time to talk about the hard way, which is completely creating a brand new background from scratch with minimal reuse of what's existing in the book.
Right. And we did this on a stream, if anyone's interested to check it out.
Yeah, we'll have that video posted as well of the stream where we went through the process of creating this background.
And we worked with our Twitch viewers to do it. So if you ever want to contribute a little bit to our video making, you can catch us on Twitch, and we are always posting on our Twitter and our Facebook when we go live.
Exactly.
So feel free to drop by.
Yeah, you might make it into a video.
Yeah.
All right, so for the hard way, like I said, we're creating a new background from scratch. So what Jill and I did was, first of all, actually, we brainstormed about what the background was going to be. Yeah. That consisted primarily of Jill coming up with a bunch of ideas and me being like, that's great, that's great, that's great. And then we just did a poll on our social media to see what custom background people wanted us to do. And the one that got the most votes was fallen deity, or deity stripped of power. So that's the sort of idea that we're working with for our custom background. And what we did to start the process is we opened up a Google Doc and we created a bit of a template that listed all of the stuff that we were going to have to come up with. So here is the stuff that you're going to have to come up with. First of all, every background starts with a little blurb, or blurb, if you will, of what that background is. So it's just like a couple paragraphs just describing what that background is, what happened in your past to result in the background that you're looking at. So a little blurb. You also want to write down a heading for skill proficiencies, tool proficiencies, languages, and equipment. Then there's sometimes like a special thing.
Yeah.
So some kind of special characteristic or feature that you can decide because you took that background. Then there's features, usually one, maybe two features, special things that you get as a result of having chosen this background. Then we have a list of personality traits, a list of potential ideals, bonds, and flaws. And then some backgrounds have a special variant listed at the end.
Yeah.
So those are like, based on my perusal of the book, those are all the possible categories or things that can appear in a background. So we just wrote headers for each of those things.
Yeah. I felt like having that structure ahead of time really made it doable. I feel like if we were just kind of free floating without kind of having a bit of a structure first, it would have been a lot more difficult.
Yeah, and because we didn't just go from top to bottom.
No, we jumped around a lot.
We did kind of flesh out our little blurb first, just to make sure we were on the same page with what we were thinking about with this background.
Right.
But then we jumped around a little bit as we started thinking of things. So if you watch the stream, you'll see that whole process. All right, so now that we've explained sort of how we templated out our background, we'll just sort of go through the actual background that we created. We're not going to read through everything, but we'll read through and give you an idea of all of the different sections and maybe chat a little bit about what creating it together was like.
A lot of fun.
Yes.
Spoiler alert.
It was. So let me read you our little blurb about this deity stripped of power background. You are a lesser god who has had their power stripped from them. Maybe you did something to offend the other deities. Maybe you don't have enough worshippers and have lost your powers as a result. Perhaps an opposing force stripped you from your powers. Or stripped your powers from you. Whatever the reason, you were once a powerful deity, but you are now mortal. Sad face. Maybe. You have some memories, residual knowledge, and a trace of magic from your previous godly existence. How much you remember could range from almost nothing, perhaps just a sense of familiarity when you see your holy symbol, to full memory of your past, including any information you had gained as a deity. So that's the idea. Next thing that we decided on, and I do think we did this pretty much first, is what skill proficiencies it would make sense for a fallen god to have. What we landed on was religion.
Yeah.
As like a fairly typical, everybody gets religion as a skill proficiency. And then we decided on a choice between intimidation and persuasion. So it's this sort of godly presence that you have that could either be, and like it's a charismatic thing that's either like a friendly way of persuading somebody or just like an intimidating presence.
Yeah. Like how are you connecting with the people? Because I think like deities have a lot of, like their whole purpose is this connection with mortals. So it's like, how are you connecting with mortals? Are you intimidating them or are you more persuading them?
Yeah.
How do you get your followers?
Do you inspire awe or fear?
Yeah.
That kind of thing. So for tool proficiencies, we chose to have no tool proficiencies associated with this background. We didn't think any particular tool proficiency flew naturally from the idea.
Right.
So no tool proficiencies. When it came to languages, we chose either celestial or infernal.
Depending.
One of the two.
Yeah.
So it's the same kind of dichotomy as the persuasion intimidation thing. And then one additional language of your choice. And hopefully you would use what you flesh out in your background to dictate what language it is that it would make sense for you to know, for example. like with my monk character that we played on the Uncaged stream, she knew Elvish, even though she was a halfling, because in her previous godly life, she was an elven god.
Right, so we actually play tested the background on our stream, so that was really cool to see.
Which is another stream that you could watch.
Yeah. We'll make sure to link that in the appropriate corner.
Yes, exactly. Okay, so we did languages, and then for equipment, we also chose no equipment.
Yeah, because you're just blasted out of, your holy or unholy place. And
whatever other realm.
Yeah,
you're
your
now
other
mortal.
realm. Yeah, and what are you going to have?
Nothing.
Your birthday suit.
Yeah,
that's about it.
That's about it.
Yeah.
Anything else you have, you got through the rest of character development. So you'll see that our characters that we've created aren't just naked. They have
anymore.
Stuff, right? They do. But that stuff didn't come from this background.
Right.
Cool. All right, so our next heading was this sometimes a special thing heading. And we did have actually a lot.
A lot of special things.
A lot in the special things because gods and deities are special creatures. Right?
Very special, yeah.
So basically we called this section your godly characteristics. So all gods have a particular alignment associated with them. And they have a domain that they sort of reign over. And they have a holy symbol as well. So part of our character background allows you to determine what those things were for you when you were a god.
Right.
So we created this is just like everything else in a background. We created some tables that you could roll randomly on to randomly determine your alignment, your domain, and your holy symbol. Although the holy symbol, not so much, because it was very difficult to find a way to randomize that. But so
any suggestions are welcome.
Yes, for sure. But yeah, we created these tables to allow people to randomize it if they wanted to, but you could always just choose whichever one you wanted.
Right.
All right, so next up is the features of the background.
I was really excited when we were getting to come up with this part, because I think the feature of the background is often like one of the more juicy bits.
It is, and I think our feature is pretty juicy.
It's pretty juicy.
I like it a lot.
When we were sort of play testing the background, I was half thinking like, is this too juicy? Is it too juicy? But the way that you were rolling, it wasn't too juicy at all.
Yeah, it was fine. It was so fine. The most OP part of that was the monkness.
It was true. It was your class that was more
crazy.
Potent.
Yes. The feature is called godly knowledge. So you have vast knowledge in your domain, which means you can make skill checks related to your domain with advantage. So you have advantage on those skill check rolls, which makes sense.
But it doesn't help much if you roll the same number twice every time you use the feature.
Yes, which is what happened to me a lot in that stream. Also, I didn't have a positive modifier on any of those features, so I was just rolling twice. But rolling twice is better than rolling once.
It can help sometimes.
Yes, definitely. The other part of godly knowledge, which is the juicy part, is that you can choose a cantrip that you know that is related in some way to your domain. So this is supposed to represent some vestiges of magical power that you still have from your previous life as a god. So yeah, choose a cantrip. And of course, all of this stuff you're going to want to check with your DM before using it.
Yeah.
But yeah, we think that that's a pretty cool feature.
Yeah, I think that's really powerful and really exciting, especially if you're playing in a game that this sort of background, maybe everyone has it, so each person is coming from a different background and they each get their own cantrip with it and everything.
I think allowing a cantrip too makes it interesting because some people might want a little bit of magic in their character, but they might want to run a class that doesn't typically have access to a lot of magic, so this would be a way to inject a little bit of magic into that. So for example, with my monk character, she got Thorn Whip because her domain was nature. Right. And yeah, it's a great cantrip. I love Thorn Whip.
When I found out you picked cantrip, I was like, I didn't think of that.
Yeah,
I didn't think of that cantrip.
Yes. I thought of it because I've played a druid and
Yeah.
basically exclusively used Thorn Whip as my main method of attack. Alright, cool. So the next section is some suggested characteristics. So these are the personality traits, ideals, bonds, flaws.
And this part took us the longest, I would say.
It did. So again, I'll say if you're trying to create a fully fleshed out background that you could post on D&D Beyond or share with people to have them use it in your campaign, it is a really great idea to come up with these lists that people can roll on to determine randomly some traits. But if you're just trying to create a background for yourself for one character, you don't need to create several personality traits. You just need to come up with the 2 that you want your character to have.
Exactly.
But we did come up with some fleshed out ideas.
Yeah, and with help from our Twitch viewers.
Exactly, yeah. We had a lot of suggestions in the Twitch chat, and we used, I think, pretty much
super
all of them.
helpful.
Yeah.
Because we would get kind of stuck, and then a couple people would chip in, and it was really nice.
Oh, that's a great idea. Yeah. Okay. So what I think we're going to do is we're going to give you a few examples of each of the ones that we came up with. So for personality traits, here's a couple. I am horribly, horribly awkward in social situations, which makes sense because you're not used to interacting with people. You don't understand them very well.
Right. And another one we chose was I have no sense of humor, which could be kind of funny.
Yeah.
For the other players.
Yeah. Similar sort of inspiration for having that one.
Yeah.
I think we should say one more personality trait because I like this one.
Yeah, go for it.
I have a way of speaking that inspires people.
Yeah.
So it goes back to that sort of inspirational, awe-inspiring, just charismatic personality.
Like a leadership sort of role maybe in the group.
Exactly. Yeah.
Especially if they were leading the group to try and figure out how to get their power back.
True. Yeah.
I think we should go up this mountain and get the vestige that is hidden there.
It will be good for you all. All right, so let's give some examples of the ideals that we came up with. Do you want to start with that?
Sure.
Okay.
One of the ideals that we chose was people. I always treat people with kindness and respect, and that would be a good leaning ideal. And I thought that this was kind of important because it comes back to that how does the deity relate to the people, and how does the deity, the fallen deity, still exist now that they're in with the mortals?
Yeah, exactly. Another one that I really like that we picked is called Destiny. I have accepted this new path and will follow where it may lead, which is neutral.
Embracing the
Embracing
situation.
the new mortality that you have. And yeah, that is similar to what I picked for that monk character.
Yeah.
Should we skip on to
Yeah,
bonds?
so for bonds, I think for bonds we had a bit of trouble, didn't we? Or
We did, yeah. But we came up with
some good ones, and
We
I
did.
think we had some help on this from
for sure.
our viewers.
Oh, I know which one I want to say. Should I start?
Go for it.
Okay. So for bonds, one of the ones that we thought up was, I would protect my one remaining devout follower with my life.
It's so
I
cute.
love that imagery that there's just like this one
left.
person who still believes in you, and you're like, oh, I will take care of you.
Yeah, just I thought that one was really good too.
Very good.
Another interesting one is I seek revenge on the one who stole my power. So that kind of gives you a bit to work with in the plot of your campaign, and maybe gives your DM a bit to work with in like who was this person, and something you guys could have a conversation about.
Yeah. Cool. All right, let's give some examples of flaws.
Flaws are something that I'm always super excited about.
They're very interesting, and they bring a lot to the role-playing aspect.
Definitely,
of the game. Yeah.
definitely. So the big one, and I think our friend Camille said this one on our stream, I do not understand how to live among mortals, and I make common social mistakes. So this sort of fumbling person trying to figure things out while living this new life.
Right, exactly. And here's another one, another flaw. I look down on other mortals and speak to them as though they are beneath me.
Yeah,
So
that's
sort of cocky, like, oh, you're all just mortals. I used to be a god. sort
yeah,
of thing.
exactly. which could be very interesting in the game.
It could create some fun dynamics for sure.
Definitely.
So the last section of of the template was the variant, and we did actually come up with a variant possibility for this background. Not all backgrounds have a variant, but when we were discussing how this background would go, one of my main questions when we started was, okay, are you a fallen deity, like one from the list at the back of the book that everybody knows and loves, or are you some lesser god that's lost their powers? And we decided that it would be better for the main background to be a lesser god, because that messes less with the fabric of reality in your game. But if your DM was cool with it, the variant is that you are one of the gods from the back of the book.
Yeah,
So you're a fallen greater god.
And what could be interesting with that is how much do you remember about who you were? And what if someone that was partying with you was a follower of that deity?
Yeah.
And do you want to tell them that you were them, or do you even remember that you specifically were that?
Right. Or would they believe you? Because this gives a lot of license for the DM to integrate that into the campaign. Because in D&D, gods manifest in fairly provable ways. You might well assume that if a god lost their power, everybody would know that. Any cleric of that god would know. They would no longer have their powers. And so what happens to all the temples that used to worship you? What effect does that have when you're interacting with people? Do they recognize you? Do they not? That kind of stuff. So yeah, we came up with this cool hook where it was like you and your party are like the main push, the main plot point for your party is figuring out what happened to blank god, but secretly that was you. And so your main goal is to like try and restore your powers, but nobody else in the party maybe knows that that's the case. But the adventure hook is something has happened to this god. Let's figure it out.
Gotta restore balance to the world as they know it.
So that's just a quick overview of the background that we created together and how we did it. And again, if you want to see us literally go through that process, you should watch the stream that we did.
It was a lot of fun.
It was really, really fun.
If you guys ever make your own background, we'd love to see a link to it.
Yes.
And if you have any ideas for other backgrounds, feel free to comment below and let us know.
Them. Maybe we'll do another stream sometime about a different background creation. We could do that again.
We do have a list of ideas that we didn't get to do. So
yes, it was fun. And we will be sharing a link. We uploaded this background to D&D Beyond in the homebrew section, so we'll put a link to that in the description.
If you want to
go
check
have
it
a look.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for watching, and feel free to subscribe and keep coming back because we like seeing you here. So thank you.
Bye.
Bye.